Hi, I'm Roy Collin, the host of the podcast. You can find everything about me by scanning the QR code there or going to roycollin.com, and you'll find my 6 podcasts: the Podfather, helping people become podcasters; the Awakening, exposing fraud and corruption but with solutions; the Crypto, all things blockchain technology; meditation podcast; speaking podcast; and the Learn Polish podcast. You can also help the show by actually making a donation, visiting the store, or helping my sponsors. I hope you enjoyed this week's show. Welcome to the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. My guest today from Kentucky, USA. In her own words, she's ridiculously happy wife after 30 years of marriage. That's something I've rarely, if ever heard. She is passionate about helping women rewind their relationships back to the fun and romance of dating, with or without their husband's efforts. That's an interesting one. So please welcome Cristie Cerniglia.
You. I'm so happy to be here.
So, I'm kind of looking forward to this because I think most men, that's the topic of conversation about like how they can't understand why their other half can't see life the way they are. So I suppose let's kind of delve before we go into your coaching and everything, because what I found was very interesting is your own parents got divorced, and to have somebody then having a very successful marriage is brilliant to see from that, because, you know, the so-called, if you listen to what people say, oh, the chances are. So maybe just tell us what you witnessed yourself and then how you got into all this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. And the truth is, I witnessed a very happy marriage growing up. My parents loved each other very much, and they were affectionate, and there were things. My mom was more social and wanting to go out and kind of do things and be with people and that kind of thing. And my dad was less. He was more, no, let's stay at home and relax. He worked hard during the day, that kind of a thing. But you know what? My mom accepted him for the way he was, and she went and did her thing on her own and kept herself happy. And so I witnessed a really healthy part in that she accepted the way that he was and didn't allow it to hold her back from enjoying the things that she enjoyed. And like I said, they had a very affectionate marriage, a good marriage. What happened was that there was a separation for a time when we were preparing to move, where my dad went to find a job in another city and ended up getting involved with another woman. So the divorce between my parents was very sudden and surprising. And I think that was a big part of the pain of it, is that I did have this happy home and this happy childhood, and then suddenly it's all gone. And so in my, that I was 17 when they divorced. So through college, I'm telling anybody that will listen, I'm never getting married. Are you kidding? So that I can be married for 20 some years and then he leaves me for another woman, forget about it, right? And so when I met my husband and told my mom, I think he's the one, I think we're going to get married, she was shocked. She said, I thought you weren't going to get married. And, but yeah, so it was so I had a good example that went bad. So I always felt challenged to discover, how do you keep that from happening? And obviously you can't keep that from happening, right? Because the only person I have control over is me. So the other people do what they're going to do, and I can't control that. So I did have to discover that too. But what ended up happening is my husband and I would say, have always had a happy marriage. But over the years, right, when two flawed human beings live together, there is a rub, right? And there is strife. And there were some areas in our marriage that were difficult and that were not being resolved and kind of building up over the years. And so I'm a big reader and researcher and everything. So I was reading everything out there about marriage. And I was, we were going to conferences. We went to marriage counseling. We did it all. And nothing was really getting us where we wanted to go. And marriage counseling, I don't know if anybody else has had this experience, but it's like, let's go somewhere. Let's sit down and complain about each other for a full hour and then see how that ride home goes. Right? It's terrible. I don't think anybody ever got happier by complaining about their spouse for an hour.
Because I think a lot of them, it's kind of like they're hoping that the therapist, counselor, or whatever, sides with them and goes, yeah, they're wrong and you're right. And both sides are actually looking for that, which is throwing, I call it washing your laundry in public. Because sometimes you kind of keep things to yourselves and you don't need to be doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So most of the women who come to see me, they have the he syndrome. And that means they're saying, well, he needs to do this. And if he would do that, and he needs to change and all those things, right? Because that's how we are as human beings. We think, I'm doing really well. If the other person would make some changes, we could be really happy. But, Roy, as long as we believe that the other person has to change in order for me to be happy, then my situation is hopeless. Right? Because I can't change my husband. So if I'm waiting for him to change in order for me to be happy, I'm stuck. It's a very hopeless victim place to be. And so I was so happy when I came across this book, The Empowered Wife by Laura Doyle. And I began to read this book. It was about 3 years ago. And it made such a difference for me. It felt like she'd been reading my mail. You know what I mean? The things that were in there were what I was experiencing, but they were blind spots to me. I had no idea the things that I was doing that was impacting my husband negatively, and that there was so much within my power that I could change to make our marriage beautiful again.
Excellent. I mean, what I've seen with a lot of relationships, and it can happen on both sides, but from my experience, I've seen it happen more the women doing it, whereas they cut the friends out first. They don't want the husband or the boyfriend to have the friends. They want to be around them all the time. Then they try to change and mold them into a certain way, and then they hate that person that they've just created. And, the man trying to keep things calm just wants to please. They're madly in love with him. They start doing everything. And then the woman hates him for the person that they have just created.
Oh my goodness. I think you're exactly right. And we don't even realize that we're doing it. Yeah. Because the man becomes less manly. He becomes less of a leader and a decision maker. And then the woman loses respect for him. In my experience, the man needs to show up with his masculinity turned up high. And that doesn't mean that he's a monster. That doesn't mean that he's angry and pushy and overbearing. No. But he needs to show up with his masculinity high. And the woman needs to show up with her femininity on high. And then they are attracted and pulled together in a magnetic way, right? But when the woman starts to take over as leader, and the man starts to fall apart and become less and less masculine, then there is no attraction. And that romance and that connection and that intimacy starts to fade. And then they find themselves in the situation that so many couples are in today, where they're unhappy and they're arguing and there's cold wars and people aren't speaking and there's no attraction and there's no pull.
And I mean, there's always, the men are always complaining about the women are always about the men. But I see it on both sides, because I see some men, they think it's okay to go play 3 games of golf a week. They come back from work, they put on the football game and everything. And that's not right either. Or, I think the roles have actually changed regarding children. Because when I grew up, I'm 72, I was born in 72. And when I grew up, it was always the mothers were, at home looking after the kids and everything. The fathers came back, then the fathers went to the pub, and that was kind of the norm. And now I see the roles reversing, that the women are the ones going off to the pub and gallivanting, and the men are taking more of a role with the kids, when in reality it should be mutual and both of them actually helping each other.
Mm-hmm. Many of the women who come to me for coaching are complaining because their husbands are gone a lot. They're either working late or, like you said, they're playing golf, they're out with their friends, they're playing video games. That's a big one nowadays. And they can't figure out how to get him back. But what I discovered in my marriage was that, and my husband was television. He likes the television. But what I discovered is that in many ways, my husband was avoiding me, separating himself from me because of the way I was showing up in the relationship. I was showing up critical. I was showing up like a teacher, like a mother, in a lot of ways that was causing him to separate himself from me. And when I began to make those changes and I began to show up with respect and gratitude and some other beautiful things, he wanted to be around me. He began seeking me out. So who knew that I had such a position of influence all the time? And that's what I want to encourage the women who are listening, is to say, you are not a victim. You don't have to be unhappy in your marriage, regardless of what he's doing. You can make yourself happy and become so magnetic that you draw him back to yourself. When I show up as my best self, my husband responds to me in a beautiful way, and it really turns back the hands of time, and it starts to feel like when we were dating again.
No, fantastic. And I think you should be constantly dating, because at the start, everyone is like, opening the doors and doing all the different things or creating a lovely meal. And then it gets to a stage where some people, they barely acknowledge each other. They don't even give each other a kiss goodbye. It's like a nod if they're lucky. And like, even because I'm constantly, from my young age, I've always been looking at different things with relationships, looking at other relationships and going, there's not one relationship I've ever seen that I wish I had, because I haven't seen, and I'm talking about all over the world. You know, I know a lot of people, I've been to a lot of countries. It's like, there's not ones I go, I wish I had that relationship, because even sometimes you might see it on social media. When you actually get to meet them, you know that it's a fakeness with some of them. And, you know, they're making it look like that they're the happy couple, and in reality, they're doing their own thing. So I've even seen people on stage that most people would think they have the best relationship in their life, and I just happened to be in the vicinity of one, and I could see constantly they were like just walking away from each other. It was all a show. And like, even with one relationship I remember they were into soaps, watching the soaps, and and then you've got the TV with the ads in it. It's just something I don't do. I don't mind sitting down having a cuddle, watching a nice movie or something like that, or even a Netflix series. That's good for me. I like that. But I love reading. That person didn't like to read, and I used to annoy him, and it was freaked them out that I didn't want to sit down and watch this. And I was happy. You do you, I do me. But a lot of people don't like that either. They want the kind of, we have to be together because we're in the house. We have to spend every moment together. And I think that's kind of important as well, to leave people breathe when they're living under the same roof.
Yes. And you know what? That's such a good point, because the very first thing that I talk to the ladies that come to me about is self-care. And what I mean when I say that is not waiting for my husband to make me happy, but being happy in and of myself. Like you're saying, if reading makes you happy, then as your significant other, I should want you to read, right? So that you show up happy, so that you feel good and your life is what you want it to be, right? So I encourage ladies to make a list of 20 things that make them happy. Small things, big things, whatever it is. Maybe you like to go for a walk. Maybe you like a hot bath. Maybe you like to go to the gym. Maybe you like to read a book, listen to a podcast, watch a show, go to the library. Whatever it is, make a list of 20 things that make you happy, so that when you feel yourself starting to slip into a bad mood, which we all do from time to time, right? You feel yourself getting overwhelmed by the responsibilities of life, you know what to do and where to go. See, back in the bad old days, as I call them, I would be slipping into a bad mood and I just gave up. Well, this is it. I guess I'm going to be in a bad mood today. And I didn't have any solution. I didn't have any way to get myself out. But now that I have my list of self-care items, I look through it and I go, do I have 5 minutes or do I have an hour? and I find something on the list that will fit for right now, and I go do it, and I go take care of me, right? Because miserable people do not have happy relationships. Can I get an amen? Miserable people don't, but happy people do have happy relationships. And so it's my job as a wife to keep myself happy and to show up happy and not wait around for my husband to do something that will make me happy. And everybody else in my household is better off. You've heard the saying, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Yeah. My family doesn't want me grumpy. They don't want me to show up as the drill sergeant, which I'm good at being the drill sergeant. I was just coaching with a lady the other night, and she said she was a manager at her job. And so when she came home and her house was a mess and dinner wasn't started, she turned into a manager at her house, and she started barking out orders to the kids and the husband. You do this, you do that, you take care of this, you pick up that, you start the dinner. And finally one day, her husband looked at her and said, no more. No more. You are not going to treat me like one of your employees. Ouch. She didn't even recognize it. She was a boss at work. She was a mom of young kids at home. She just ended up lumping her husband right in with that group of employees and children. And boy, that did not work for him. He felt disrespected. And that did not, there's no intimacy there. That was creating distance. But once she came to understand that, once she saw that and was able to think that through and move into a different direction, and we talked about respect. What does respect look like to a man? How do you show respect? What is it that you're doing that's coming off disrespectful? Once her eyes were open and her awareness was heightened, everything shifted. And now they have a beautiful marriage again. But nobody taught her that, right? Did you ever have a class on relationships when you were in grammar school or middle school or high school or even college? Did you ever have a class on how to be in a healthy relationship?
Fortunately not, and I think it should be brought in. Everyone should be learning things like that. And with, like, what I've kind of seen a kind of trend as well is especially the clingy, as I call them, where they kind of they like to suck the life out of it. They tend to not have friends, or their friends change a lot. You know, they have 40 close friends for so many years a year, then this next, then this next. So that in itself is kind of showing a trend that the type of person they are. When you spot something like that, what's the best way to, like, I think sometimes, especially for women, unfortunately, I think there's a deep trauma because of abuse and stuff like that. And sometimes it's squash, sometimes they mightn't even realize it, but it's there. And to kind of overcome these kind of situations, like, I know it's hard to do, but like, what is the best way for somebody that they're carrying that, and hence why they're reacting in such a way?
Wow, that's a really good question. I'm with you. I think that friendships are super important on both sides, but particularly for us ladies, in that, listen, I got a lot of words every single day. My husband can't handle all my words, right? He needs me to have girlfriends that I can talk to and share with. And there are things about him or situations that I can get aggravated with, that if I share them with a trusted friend who stands for my marriage, that's very, very important. That's a much healthier way to deal with that frustration than it is to take everything to him. He does not need to hear my every complaint, because my complaining, again, is not attractive, does not draw us together. So I can take those things to one of my trusted friends that stands for my marriage, and, you know, and let my conversation with him be something a little bit more enjoyable, right? And not dump things on him, because I didn't realize that I complained. But I complained quite a bit about things that I didn't understand felt like complaining and disrespect to him, but I had no idea. So I would say, it's too cold in here. What is this heater not working? And I'd go and mess with the thermostat or whatever. He felt responsible for that. And that was a complaint against him because that was his department, right? His domain, the heating and air. And he wasn't taking good care of me. And you know, one of the things that I discovered through my training to become a relationship coach that I never knew before is that my husband wants me to be happy, right? All husbands, they want their wives to be happy. When a husband's wife is happy, he feels successful. I've done it. She's happy. I'm good enough. When she is unhappy, he is frustrated and upset. He feels like, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and she's still not happy. And eventually he gives up and says, this woman is not pleasable. Oh, man. I just heard one of my husband's friends the other day say that. Like, I give her everything she wants. She's still not happy. And I thought, oh, that's so dangerous. Ladies, we've got to be pleasable. And there's a way for us to express our desires in a way that inspires rather than complaining. So I would complain about my car all the time because the whole family will ride in my car on the weekends to go and do family outings, right? And so by the end of the weekend, my car has water bottles and bar wrappers and fast food containers and all the things in it. And I get so aggravated. So I would say, everybody needs to clean up their trash. Why do you guys always leave trash in my car? I'm sick of this, blah, 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 right? I thought it was a motivational speech. Come to find out, it was just complaining, and all they heard was wah, 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 and everybody just wanted to get away from me, right? But when I learned the skill of expressing my desire in a way that inspired, I found out that all I had to say was, I would love to have a clean car. And do you know what my husband said? I'll take it and get it cleaned today. He just stepped right up because he wants me to be happy. And I had just given him information about how to make me happy. So he took it right over there and had it all cleaned up. But do you know what I did when he got home, Roy? They say if you can't be an inspiration, you can be a terrible warning. So I'm going to be the terrible warning now for the ladies out there. When he came home with the car after having it cleaned, I proceeded to open up the door and start finding things that they missed when they vacuumed the carpet. And I began to start wiping off things on the door that they didn't get. And how do you think that made my husband feel?
Well, if it was me, I would have opened the boot and put you into it.
Oh my goodness, he's a patient man. He really is. I looked at him and I saw his face drop. And I could sense that what was going on in his mind was, this is ridiculous. She's unpleasable. Why did I even bother? And as I saw that, I was like, okay. So I closed the door and I filled up with gratitude. And I said, thank you so much for taking my car to get it cleaned. I really appreciate that. And I realized that that was complaining. I didn't have to say anything. That was complaining, and it was complaining against him. I thought I was complaining against the men who did the work, but my husband received it as complaining against him and as disrespect. And so I realized that in those moments when he goes out of his way to please me, that I need to show up with lots and lots of gratitude. And so I've learned to do that. And, you know, over time, it takes time to form a new habit, right? We've been married almost 30 years. We'll celebrate 30 years in May. And I've been doing things the wrong way for a very long time. So it takes time to make these skills into new habits. But that's what I'm doing. And it's turning our relationship around. And the best news is it doesn't only work with my husband. It works with my kids. It works with my teenagers. It works with my adult children. Works with my mom. Works with people in the grocery store. These skills work in relationships, and that's what I love about them.
So one of the I suppose this is the $1 million question, because a lot of times the woman brings a situation but just needs a listening ear, and the man in us gives the solution, but you don't want the solution, and then you eat our heads for giving a solution when all you wanted us to listen. How do people know?
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that's part of what I've learned through all this, is that men don't know what it's like to be a woman. They don't know what it feels like. They don't know what feels good and what hurts our feelings. And we're the same way. I don't know what it's like to be a man and a husband. And I didn't know how to speak his language. And I didn't know how to show him respect. I thought that I respected him. But turns out many of the things I was doing and saying were hitting him disrespectfully. So it's really just about awareness. It really is about awareness, and then it's about communicating and knowing how to say to my spouse, hey, I have something I want to share with you. Will you just listen? And kind of telling him, I would love for you to just listen to this, and you don't even have to solve it. I just want your ear. And so being able to communicate what it is that I want in that moment is really important.
And this Laura Doyle, because I think you got your coaching then from Laura Doyle, was it?
Yeah. So I hired a coach. After I read the book, I hired a coach because the book gave me the framework, but I really wanted to know specifically, okay, how do I apply that here in my challenge, the thing that I'm going through? And as soon as I got on the phone with a coach, I said, oh man, this is what I want to do. The way that she listened, the way that she understood, and the way that she applied. And it was very workshop-y. It's not like counseling where the person just spills their problems and the coach just listens. No, it's very action-oriented. So there's a listening portion, but then there's an action. Like, how do we want to do it different next time? Moving forward, how do you want to show up? And that's what I liked about it, is let's talk about change, right? Let's not dig back there. That's over and done with. Let's talk about what to do going forward. So I knew I wanted to be a coach. So I signed up. I took a year online of studying and classes and things to certify with Laura Doyle to be a certified relationship coach. And I only work with women because that's my experience, right? I'm a woman. I understand women, and I want to help women to repair and rewind their marriages, even if their husbands aren't involved. Because women will say, well, my husband won't go to counseling. Great, it's fine. We don't need him to do anything. We're just going to work on you. That's where your power is, right? You can change you. You can't do a thing with him, but he will respond to you differently when you show up different.
When people one won't go, because I won't give names, but with me personally, with a relationship, I wanted it to work and they wouldn't go. I went myself and I was raw. I was saying everything. I was saying the bad things I was doing, and I was kind of told, no, it's not going to work. And later, years later, the person apologized for kind of realizing their flaws, but it was like after causing a lot of heartache and pain. But when there's a situation like that, that one thinks, you're the problem, you go get the counseling, but it's usually the other way around. What do you do? Because you can go and you can be as nice as pie and you can, but when there's narcissism, there's bipolar, there's a few other things as well that people are kind of navigating. What's the best way when you've got something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so hard when the two people are in different places in the relationship. But I have worked with women, and I've seen other coaches work with women whose husbands are actively involved with another woman. They've moved out, they're separated and things like that. And I have seen women in those crisis situations begin implementing the skills and win their husbands back. Now, there's no guarantee, right? He can do whatever he wants to do, and she can't control that. But what I have found is that when she goes through coaching and she begins to implement the skills and starts to take good care of herself and become happy again, and she begins to show up as her best self, she's in better shape regardless of what he decides, right? If he comes back, she's ready to receive him. If he decides to go, she is in a stronger, healthier, happier position to move on. And so, I encourage people, whether it's the man or the woman that wants to seek help, work on yourself, be the best version of yourself, regardless of what that other person chooses to do, because you don't have any power there. You don't get to change them. You don't get to work on them and rearrange them. They get to make those decisions.
And with kind of experience that you've got through the coaching, is there any examples of where most people would think there's no way this could be saved, and it ends up that they get closer than ever?
I see it all the time, because here's the key. There is a reason why these two people chose each other, right? There was a love and an attraction, and there was qualities in each of them that really brought them together. And unfortunately, over the years of household and kids and all the work and responsibilities, those things have gotten buried and they've gone missing. But they're still there, right? That man is the same man that you chose to marry, and that woman is the same woman that you chose to marry. Unfortunately, things have just gotten lost and buried. But we can dig those things back up. We can revive those things. All of those qualities that you fell in love with are still present in your mate. We just have to bring them out again. And that's why I think that women are so powerful and so influential to change the temperature in their household and to change the dance in their relationship. That when they start to show up like the girl that he fell in love with, he starts to show up like the boy that she fell in love with too.
Yeah, excellent. Another one I'm very curious about, like, I'm an early bird. I'll jump out of bed, 6 a.m, full of energy, no problem. But sometimes people are opposite, and this works in both sexes, but sometimes you've got the night owl, which, they're crawling out of bed at 10 o'clock, and then they're trying to have the conversation at 12 in the night time when you just want to pull the blankets over your head. Can that work, or are you actually better off finding somebody that has kind of the same kind of clock as you?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that couple needs to have afternoon meetings. So true. Is it, and I wonder, that's such a good question though, is that a stuck thing? Are you a morning or a night person? Or is that just something that we've told ourselves over the years, and can it be shifted? Could you work together? And because I have said that to myself for such a long time, oh, I'm not a morning person, I'm not a morning person. And you know what? It has not served me to say that. And so I decided to stop saying that and to stop telling myself that. What I have found is that what I focus on grows and increases. So if I focus on my husband's faults and flaws, which he has them, and so do I, then those tend to grow and I see them more and more. But if I focus on all the wonderful things about him, then those things grow and I find more and more evidence of what a great man he is. So I think sometimes we need to shift our focus, and maybe you're not a night owl or a morning person. Maybe you're just a person.
Well, I think it's very important, the self-talk that people has, and they don't, some people don't realize it. But I mean, I make sure, when I hear some of the negative talk, so many women put themselves down, and I just say, even friends, I'm not talking about relationships that I've been, but I've seen in and I just said, please don't ever say that about yourself.
Yes.
They like, I never in my life, I never say anything like that. And I rarely hear men say something like that, but I hear women constantly putting themselves down.
Yeah. Well, and think about it. I mean, if another human being was saying those things to us all day long, we would get away from them. But sadly, when it's in our own mind, it's tough to get away. Yeah, but we need to recognize, what's the story that I'm telling myself, and how do I want to change that? And yeah, I think it's super powerful, super powerful. For many years, I told myself that my husband was lazy because he liked to watch television. And that story, that label, did not serve me well. It caused me to feel disrespectful toward him. When I flipped that story and said, that's not even true. What's the opposite of lazy? Hardworking. So I began to look for evidence. My husband is a hard worker. And it was everywhere. It was all over the place. And I completely debunked that idea that he was lazy. And it changed the way I saw him, and it changed the way I loved him.
There's another side to that as well, is sometimes the man, whether you call it going into deep thought, critical thinking, daydreaming, and the woman thinks, he's doing nothing, I have to give him something to do. And they need that kind of space. How would you stop that from happening?
Oh gosh, it's so true. And do you know what part of it is, though? Part of it, I know for me, and I've heard this from other women as well, is that we're jealous. We're very jealous that men are so good at relaxing and taking the time that they need. My husband knows when he's tired, and he stops. And he goes to sit down and relax. Not me, boy. I keep going until I'm ticked off at the whole wide world, right? Because I've got to get these dishes done, and I've got to get this laundry done. I didn't know how to stop and say, those dishes will be there tomorrow. That laundry will be there tomorrow. I just kept pushing myself until I was mad and resentful at the rest of the family because they were sitting down enjoying some relaxation together. But I didn't recognize that I was jealous, right? That they were good at relaxing and I wasn't. So I had to learn how to say, the dishes will be there tomorrow and I'll handle them tomorrow. But right now I'm tired and I need to sit down. Otherwise, I'm going to get grouchy and resentful. And I really think, Roy, that resentment is the poison that kills marriages. We've got to fight against it.
I mean, I'm really in tune with myself. Like, I know when even if I've got a list of a lot of things to, I go, no, I'm done. And I just step away from it. And it's like, because there's times you'd be pushing yourself and like you snapped in when you kind of go, I have to get this done. And then like the child does something simple and you're snapping, and you're not snapping because what they've just done. You're snapping because you're tired and you're using that then, and then you're pushing everyone that loves you away.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really, but again, it's a blind spot. It's something that I was not aware of. And once I recognized it, then I'm able to do it a different way. Yeah. Beautiful.
The fascinating thing is, because I mean, like, it's a learning journey as we go along. We're all learning. We look back at ourselves and we go, I want to slap myself in the head. I behaved. But it's like, the reality is, this is not difficult. It's just being in tune with a few little things. And just as you say, some things don't come easy, but you just kind of practice and eventually it becomes a part of life. And then you realize the benefit to it. But, like we said at the start, it's a shame people aren't taught this in school, because there's a very high percentage of people get into relationships and, it's like a simple list of things that they can be doing. And I think it's more about self-respect and making sure that you're happy instead of looking for the magic wand. That person is going to make me happy. That person is rich. They're going to buy me the big house, the car. I'm going to be happy. And the reality is that, it might work for a few years, but the reality is that doesn't work either. And then they're wondering why they're not happy.
Yes, it's so true. So true. Yeah, there's no There's no magic wand, but you said something in there I really wanted to respond to, but I can't remember what it was.
So there's the 6 intimacy skills, and I just touch on them so that to get the people curious about what they are.
Well, one is the self-care, like we brought up to begin with. We've got to be happy to start off with, right? We've got to take care of ourselves. It's like on the airplane, right? You're going to put your oxygen mask on first so that you can help the people around you. But if you don't have yours on, how are you going to help anybody, right? So self-care is one. We touched on gratitude, which is another one of the skills. And I don't know why, but I think that I had gotten into a habit of being stingy with gratitude. Why would we ever be stingy with gratitude? We ought to be throwing that stuff around like confetti, right? Everybody likes to be acknowledged for their contribution. And so I want to be the first one to acknowledge the contributions of my husband and my kids and my family because it feels good. And when I show gratitude to other people, it makes me feel good because I'm seeing it and recognizing it. I'm putting my focus on something positive, and it makes them feel good. So it's a double duty skill.
And I think that's very important. I just want to touch on that actually, because I think it's really important. Same with the kids and everything that you're looking for. Because most of the times, even with the kids, their people are just pointing out all the bad things. They never say the good things, what they love, what they've done well, and why they appreciate so much and they love. And I mean, that's something that I've done. I've got a fantastic relationship with my youngest child based on just being aware of that. But one of the things on the opposite side of the spectrum, what I've seen a lot of, I've seen women when they go with each other. Oh, your dress is lovely. Oh, you're looking beautiful. Your hair is beautiful. That lady leaves, and they're all just reading her. And to me, I never in my life had men do that, but women do it a lot. And to me, it is so pathetic. I have said it in relationships. Are they really your friends? Because I said, when you leave, they're talking about you. How can you actually behave like that? That goes on a lot. I mean, that's an international thing. And I don't get it, to be honest, which I don't, it's all a kind of, oh, look at your top, and as if like big, high, excited, friendly, and it's a fakeness instead of a genuine caring or a genuine compliment, and not as soon as they turn their back that you're reading them and mocking them or whatever.
Yeah, that's so painful, and we can be blind to it too. But I think what you said is really important, that women, it's easy for women to get in the mode of correcting and criticizing and mothering, whether they're a boss at work, and that's a good example, but also once they're a mom and they're used to telling the kids, go here and do this. And like you said, they're used to correcting the kids. Don't wear that. Don't say that. Say this. And so many times it seems like the husband just gets lumped in there because they're in mom mode. I'm in mom mode right now and laying out everybody's clothes. And pretty soon she's laying out husband's clothes too. And it's like, he does not need me to pick out his clothes. He was getting dressed long before he met me.
But I've seen it. I find it so strange that the woman picks the clothes or buys the clothes. And I'm like, what? I like, that's not me, but I see it so many times happening. Like,
yeah. All of these things are things that we don't recognize, but they fall under control, and many times they fall under kind of a mothering category. And let's face it, ladies, men don't want to sleep with their mothers, so we need to stop showing up as a mother figure in their life and begin to be that girl of fun and light that he chose to date and propose to in the beginning. And that girl didn't pick out his clothes, and that girl didn't tell him where to park or how to drive or, what to say to his boss or any of those things. She didn't control him. She just hung out with him and enjoyed his company.
I thoroughly enjoy this. And what I'd love is maybe perhaps in 3 months come back, and what I'll do is I'll do a poll and I'll ask people to send their questions, because the thing is, it's so many people get hurt in the carnage of a broken relationship, not just the children. But the worst thing is, what I hate is like when a relationship broke, you could be very close with even their parents or their friends and stuff, and the whole lot ends. And it didn't need to. There's times that, as you say, you had something beautiful at the start. So perhaps we can get the listeners to give us different things, and then you can answer, because like every single thing that you said is beautiful. And the main thing is that there's hope, that people can actually, don't throw in the towel. It's like if there was a lighter there was a spark, your heart skipped the beat, your hairs were standing on, you can get that back. Don't throw in the towel and just, sorry.
Yes, I love that. And you're exactly right. There is hope. And if there's a woman listening who is beginning to feel hopeless, have her call me. I've got hope for her. I promise. I've got the hope that she needs right now.
So you might let people know where they can find you, Cristie.
Yeah. My website is relationshipswithamap.org. And then they can find me at Relationships with a Map on Facebook or Instagram too.
Okay. I'll make sure I put the links both on the audio and the video. Thank you very much. And I look forward to having you back in a few months' time.
That sounds great. Thank you.
That's all for the Speaking Podcast. You'll find other episodes on speakingpodcast.com. Until next week, take care. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As mentioned at the start, you can find my 6 podcasts on REKINDLE.com or scan the QR code if you're looking to start a podcast or do a podcasting tour, help with that. Also, if you're looking for a virtual assistant, we also have that service. And you can help the show by visiting the store, supporting our sponsors, or making a donation. Until next week, take care.